The police cruiser turned the corner and slowly rolled up in front of my house. No sirens, no flashing lights, just two officers stepping out with the sort of purposeful calm that says, "This is serious, but not quite an emergency." I was still, in my slippers, sipping the last bit of lukewarm coffee from a chipped mug, barely registering what was happening until I saw them glance down at my kids. Lena and Max were running around in our front yard, chalk drawings sprawling across the sidewalk like a rainbow map of childhood. They were in the middle of a game, something they'd invented that involved hopscotch, tag, and a lot of laughter. It wasn't even close to dinner time. The sun was still out, birds chirping like some cliché summer scene from a postcard. But the weight in the officers' expressions made my stomach knot. "Good afternoon, sir," one of them said as they approached. "We received a call from a neighbor concerned about unsupervised minors being loud, possibly trespassing." "Unsupervised," I repeated, already knowing where this was going. "Those are my kids, in our yard, playing tag." The second officer gave a polite nod. Glancing at the pastel chaos drawn all over the pavement, she said the children were yelling, running into her property, and creating a disturbance. I didn't need to ask who she was. From across the street, Karen Jennings sat comfortably on her porch, phone still in hand like some self-appointed neighborhood enforcer. Her expression was cold satisfaction, wrapped in passive aggression. It wasn't the first time she'd pulled something like this, not by a long shot. Just 2 weeks ago, she'd called the HOA because Lena and Max had a lemonade stand that obstructed pedestrian access. A few days after that, she stormed over because their basketball had rolled onto her lawn for exactly 3 seconds. Each time, she did it with a sugar-coated smile and a voice full of phony concern. "I'm just looking out for the community," she always said, right? More like looking for reasons to feel powerful. I took a slow breath. My kids had gone quiet, watching the officers with wide eyes. I hated how confused they looked, how small and worried. All because they were being kids, officers. I said calmly, "Has this neighbor made similar calls before?" They exchanged a glance. "We can't go into full details, but this address does pop up. Quite a bit, actually. Figures. Double quotes. Well, I think you should know something," I continued. "I'm not just the parent of those two. I'm also the president of the local school board." That got their attention. The taller one raised an eyebrow. "Is that so? Elected last year. I work closely with district safety and community affairs. I'm very familiar with youth behavioral codes, legal boundaries, and the rights of children in public and private spaces. And I know that what's happening right now isn't just absurd, it's borderline harassment." The shorter officer nodded slowly. "That would align with what we've seen on previous calls to this. Straight." I gestured to my kids. "They're 8 and 10. They're not vandalizing anything, not screaming profanities, not trespassing. They're laughing, playing, living. If that offends someone, that's on them, not on my children." From her porch, Karen must have heard every word. I saw her shift in her seat, lips tightening, phone slowly lowering like she realized maybe this hadn't gone exactly the way she wanted. She probably expected me to panic, maybe even yell. Instead, she was watching me calmly speak to the two very polite officers, now turning their attention back toward her side of the street. "Just to clarify," I said, "do you intend to file any citations or take any further action?" "Not at all," the taller one said. "Everything looks completely appropriate here. We're going to have a chat with the reporting party." I gave them a polite nod. "I appreciate your professionalism." As they walked away, Lena tugged on my sleeve. "Dad, did we do something wrong?" I crouched next to her, looking into those innocent brown eyes. "Not a single thing, sweetheart. Some people just don't remember what it's like to be a kid." Max held my hand, staring over at Karen. "Is she mad at us?" "She's mad at a lot of things, buddy," I said softly, "but that's her problem, not yours." The officers made their way across the street, one of them pulling a small notepad from his pocket. Karen stood now, gesturing wildly, trying to defend her version of events. I couldn't hear much from where I stood, but her body language told the whole story, defensive, jittery, unraveling. Whatever explanation she thought would protect her didn't seem to be landing the way she hoped. More than a few of our neighbors had emerged from their homes by this point, watching curiously. Mrs. Calhoun from next door gave me a thumbs up. The Thompsons, who lived 2 doors down and had 2 little boys of their own, mouthed asterisk finally asterisk from across the lawn. This wasn't just about my kids anymore. This was a turning point. Karen had been policing the entire street for years, nitpicking yard lengths, complaining about decorations, even trying to get someone's dog removed for barking asterisk during the daytime. Asterisk most of us tolerated her out of habit, some out of fear. But this, calling the cops on elementary school kids for playing outside in the middle of the day, that was a step too far. The officers wrapped up their conversation with her and walked back toward their cruiser. One of them gave me a nod as they passed. "Everything's good on our end. Sorry for the trouble." "Not your fault," I said. "Thanks again." As the car rolled away, Karen stood on her porch, arms crossed tightly over her chest, eyes burning holes into me. But for once, she said nothing. I looked back at my kids and smiled. Tags back on. Max didn't waste a second. He tagged his sister and bolted down the sidewalk. Laughter ringing out louder than ever, Lena gave chase, barefoot and grinning, completely at peace again. And me, I just sat on the steps and watched the sun catch the colors of their chalk drawings. By the next morning, I wasn't just annoyed, I was determined. After the police visit and the ridiculous accusations thrown at my kids, I knew I couldn't let this slide. Karen had crossed the line for the last time. And it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about every neighbor she'd bullied, every kid she'd made feel like a criminal for simply existing. I pulled out the officer's incident report politely handed to me before they left, and began drafting a formal complaint to the HOA. The file I put together wasn't small. I included screenshots of previous emails Karen had sent to the HOA. Over the past year, things I'd collected as board president in my professional capacity, but now repurposed to defend my family. Complaints about bike helmets being too brightly colored, accusations that someone's wind chime was a public noise hazard, and one remarkable note demanding that trick-or-treaters be banned after 6 p.m. because Halloween emboldens delinquent behavior. I attached the police incident number and a written statement from my next-door neighbor, Mrs. Calhoun, who had watched the entire event unfold and was more than happy to help. "I've lived on this street for 42 years, she wrote. "I've seen generations of children play outside. Never once has it been a problem until Karen Jennings moved in." 2 more neighbors followed. One, a single dad named Peter, detailed how Karen once accused his son of throwing pine cones at her house, a claim disproven by the fact that the boy was at soccer practice and are away at the time. The other was from the Thompsons, who had lived here for a decade and were now nervous to let their boys play outside because Karen keeps peeking through the blinds and writing things down. I submitted the entire package to the whole with the subject line, *** pattern of harassment and abuse of power, immediate review requested, ***, but it wasn't just the whole I had in mind. I knew Karen had also filed to speak at the next public school board meeting, a routine she'd started months ago. Every few meetings, she'd show up with her neatly printed papers and her sharp voice, criticizing the district for allowing lax discipline, unsupervised social gatherings, and most recently, the erosion of suburban values through over-tolerant child-rearing. Her speeches were always borderline absurd, but now I was looking forward to her next appearance with a whole new kind of anticipation. When the day of the meeting came, I arrived early and calm. The boardroom was filled with the usual mix of parents, staff, and community members. I took my seat at the head of the table, my nameplate freshly cleaned, read *** Marcus R. Hayes, President. ***. I greeted my fellow board members with a nod, flipped open my agenda binder, and waited. Sure enough, halfway down the public comment list, *** Karen Jennings, ***, she sat in the 3rd row, gripping a folder thick with printed pages and scribbled notes. She looked exactly as she always did at these meetings, perfectly pressed blouse, aggressively tidy hair, a face pinched in permanent disapproval. She didn't even look up at me. Maybe she hadn't realized yet. Maybe she still thought I was just the guy across the street with two noisy kids. When her name was called, she stood with practiced dignity and marched to the microphone like she owned the place. "Good evening," she began. "I come before the board tonight as a concerned member of this community. Our neighborhood, once quiet and orderly, has become increasingly chaotic. Children are running unsupervised in the streets, shouting at all hours. Property lines are disrespected, personal boundaries ignored. I have filed multiple complaints to the HOA and local police regarding these disturbances. But the root of the issue lies here. With the school board's permissive culture, I let her go on for a minute. She referenced breakdowns in parental authority, school policies that encourage unruly behavior, and at one point, even the psychological impact of unstructured play. She was clearly building toward something. And then she said, one family in particular has created a public nuisance," she declared. "The children are often allowed to roam freely, causing disruptions not only to neighbors." "But Ms. Jennings," I said gently, leaning forward, "I'm going to stop you right there." She blinked. "Excuse me, for transparency's sake, I need to disclose that you are referring to my children." Silence fell over the room. Someone in the back even gasped a little. Karen froze. Her expression didn't shift right away. It was like her brain hadn't caught up with her mouth yet. She stared at me, eyes wide, lips parted just slightly, folder trembling in her hands. "I'm Marcus Hayes," I continued, "president of this board, father of the two children you called the police on. Children who, according to multiple neighbors and the responding officers, were simply playing outside on their own property. As such, I'll be recusing myself from voting on any motions related to your concerns. But please be advised that your statements are being entered into the public record." The folder in her hand dropped slightly. Her shoulders sagged. She looked around, suddenly aware that the room was full of parents who had also dealt with her crusade. No one came to her defense. One mother leaned over to whisper to another and chuckled. Someone else took out their phone, possibly to tweet what had just happened. Karen stammered. She tried to salvage the moment, flipping through her pages and mumbling something about general principles, but the damage was done. Her righteous energy was gone, her confidence shattered in real time. She barely got through another sentence before giving up and walking stiffly back to her seat. Face flushed red, the rest of the meeting went on, but Karen didn't stay. She slipped out after the next comment period, eyes locked to the floor. By the weekend, her house had a for sale sign in the yard. The change in the neighborhood was immediate. Kids rode bikes without fear. Sidewalk chalk art exploded like graffiti on every driveway. Parents waved at each other more often, even. The HOA, now more alert to Karen's track record, issued a memo discouraging residents from unfounded reports that disrupt community peace. One evening, I sat on my front steps, watching Max and Lena play tag with the Thompson boys and Peter's daughter. The sunset painted the street orange and gold. Laughter rang out like music. And no one asterisk told them to stop. I smiled. Karen had tried to shut down the sound of childhood, but all she'd really done was remind everyone what it meant to protect it.